Bankruptcy seems like the best option. I briefly signed up for a debt settlement service, but I quickly realized that it wasn't a viable option either. With $500 monthly payment, I have no money left after taxes. I work full time, actually more than full time, 46 hours a week selling cars. But unfortunately, the brand I sell cars for gets very little foot traffic. I'm kind of curious on what car would it be. What do you think?
No, what car doesn't get that good at foot traffic right now?
Volkswagen?
Maybe some like weird, no, they get, dude, how many Jettas have you seen recently? There's so many Jettas on the road. Maybe some like weird European car. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
The smart car, maybe? Who makes the smart car? I've never seen one.
Who makes the smart car? That's a we need that in the chat. Drop a comment, please. For every 100 cars another brand is sold, only one of our cars is sold.
I don't know what he sells.
I don't know what he sells. Yeah, what are you selling?
Scooters.
Yeah, electric bikes. Are these those like those Chinese trucks you can buy off like Amazon for like $5,000 maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Our commissions aren't high enough for me to make up for this lack of volume. I have an interview for a more stable and high-paying job this week and next. So hopefully it will improve my situation. Best of luck on that.
Good luck.
I've always been responsible with the credit score, but at 25, I've always been responsible with credit, and at 25, I had a 770. That's really good. That's really solid.
Yeah.
I was ready to buy a home, but my wife didn't want the duplex I was planning on buying and renting out. I didn't proceed with the purchase, which now I consider to be one of my biggest mistakes. How do you feel about that, Chris?
There's a few things I'm thinking of. First, let's go back to him saying that he would try to do a debt settlement service and realized that it wasn't viable. First off, most debt settlement services are bullshit, and they just charge you money because you're distressed, and they don't really do anything for you. What they tell you to do is defer paying it while they try to negotiate, which is them basically saying like, please don't charge me more. And then at the end of it, when the creditor says like, no, we want the full payment, they just go, oh, well, we tried. You still have to pay them, and now you owe additional interest and maybe late fees. So I think that most of those debt repayment plan or debt service settlement things are BS. That's just my standpoint. It's typically better to work with somebody to find like a debt repayment plan rather than trying to pay somebody to settle your debt for you. Because most of the time it's a bunch of hullabaloo and you just end up spending money. But I understand if you're desperate, you're looking for hope, but that hope is something not great. Yeah. I'm going to guess you want to talk about the spouse not wanting to buy the duplex. Is that the biggest thing you want to talk about?
Yes, please.
You know, when it comes down, when I hear that, like, oh, I could have bought a duplex, but my wife made me not do it. Like, you need to take some personal responsibility, bro. All of life is a negotiation. If your wife didn't want to be in a duplex with you, how did you sell it? How did you tell her it was going to be? Did you tell her like, we're going to be inside the same house with this, and like Mike, my buddy's going to be in the room next door? Like, you could sell this to your wife. So it sounds like you were trying to create your own luck and it didn't work out, and now you're blaming your spouse for it. And if you want to play victim, that's totally fine. You can play victim your whole life, but you're not going to get very far. So I'm not calling you a victim. I'm not calling you anything, but like the worst thing you can be in life is a victim. So you had something you wanted to do the duplex. It didn't work out. Was it a mistake? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know, because what could have been really bad is had you purchased the house, you have the house, and yeah, you rent out half of it, but you're only making $400 every 2 weeks. And now you can't pay for the house. Now, not only are you kicked out of your house, but also your tenant is kicked out on the street too, because you couldn't make your payments on there. So just because you could have had this house that was bringing in some income, it's not like you're going to rent out half your house and they're going to pay for both mortgages. This is not the way it typically works. So don't be a victim here, bro. Like, absolutely. That's all I'm going to say to that.
Absolutely.
Here's maybe your wife knew something. No, maybe your wife knew something. I was going to say, like, maybe your wife knew something. Like, maybe she's like, hey, this isn't a good idea. And she explained that stuff to you. You're like, no. This is going to work out. I don't know what the situation is there, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, because you're a team. And part of me is like, you should have just bought it. It's like, no, that's not what a team does. One person on the team doesn't unilaterally make all the decisions, but it is important that, like Chris said, I mean, you got to sell it. Your team, you got to be a united front. If it's not right, then it's not right. But if it is right, you got to do everything you can to make sure that they're on board with it.
Yeah, but if you're in a marriage and you want to do something like an investment and your spouse is not on with it, don't be stupid. Don't do stuff without your spouse. Obviously, you guys have separate accounts. It's your own money. Do your own thing there. But like, if you guys have joint accounts, and if it's something like a house, that is not something that's financial infidelity. It's like doing something like that, where you're straight up doing something against the wishes of your spouse.
So here's the situation I got myself into. About 2 years ago, I had a great job making $70,000 a year with a promising career progression. However, the company pulled the plug just before I could transfer to a permanent spot. At the same time, my wife and I started having major relationship issues. I returned to the community college and got a degree and a career change. Stress from these events led to severe panic attacks.
Okay, pause. So in that case, it's a good thing you didn't purchase that duplex, because had you purchased that duplex with the knowledge that I'm making $70,000 a year, then immediately got canned a few months later, the biggest mistake you would have ever made would have been buying that duplex and then losing that duplex. You already had panic attacks and stress from losing the job. Could you imagine also having to be forced to make payments on the home that you just purchased that you can't afford now?
Exactly. It's true.
It's a story you're telling yourself, bro. You're telling yourself that all this went wrong for no reason. Like, thank God that your wife stepped in.
During this stressful period, I developed severe spending problems. School costs were around $6,000 a year, but I racked up an additional $40,000 a year in credit card debt trying to cope with my stress. Even though my wife and I had enough income to cover the minimum payments, I would end up spending again and again and again, increasing the debt. However, now that we've been in marriage for 9 years, my wife and I are practically separated, no longer sharing finances, or even a home. I'm left making $400 every 2 weeks unless I have a good sales week, and I owe multiple months of payments to multiple creditors. I can't continue like this, and also I can't afford to pay down these balances. It seems like Chapter 7 bankruptcy is my only option, unless a philanthropic billionaire or Mr. Beast steps in to help me. I'm open to any guidance you can offer. Please help. From in a financial bind, peace hard to find, need a way to ease my mind. About that. Well, I'm glad he's getting a new job. Like he's actively hunting for a new job, right? That's a plus. That's a plus.
That's probably the only plus that I heard this entire thing.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you need to find another job. That's a non-negotiable. If you really do work 46 hours a week, if that's true, and I kind of doubt that's true, but let's say you are working 48 hours a week and only making $800 a month gross, that means that you're making $4.01 an hour. If that's the case, go work at freaking Burger King and at least make minimum wage. I don't understand like how long you've been at this dead end job for, but it's a simple calculation. You can keep on working hard to make this thing work, but if it's not working, you can get a job today. Like, leave that job. If you're working 46 hours, and go work 46 hours at 2 freaking fast food restaurants and at least be making minimum wage. Like, this is not the freaking, I don't know, the pain Olympics. Like, you need to figure something out. But I hear a lot of, when I'm looking at this, and I'm going to give this guy some tough love, is like, you screwed up. You put yourself in $40,000 of debt. You went to school to better yourself. That's great. I'm sorry about the panic attacks. I have anxiety too. I know what that's like. It's really, really tough. But you and your wife had the ability to work through this. You were making minimum payments, but you put yourself back to the situation by being able to make the payments, but you went and put more debt in. You had to know when you were spending that money that this was going to come back to bite you. But instead of thinking about your future self and thinking like, I want to set future self up for, you said, fuck that guy. I want to take care of me right now. And you allowed your future self to now deal with it. And now you're having to deal with it right now because of the things that past you did. And even right now, with the end of the whole thing, you're saying, oh, if I go to Chapter 7, it'll be good. Or maybe a philanthropic person like Mr. Beast is going to come and pay this off. You're still looking for that hero that's going to come and save you. So my question to you, listeners, do you want to change? Do you actually have a reason to change? Or are you just hoping that someone's going to come and save you? This is your money. This is your life. And if you're sitting there hoping, hope is not a strategy. And if I think the worst thing that can happen is that hope does work and someone comes and saves you from this. They pay off your debt or do whatever. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to put yourself right back into the same situation because you haven't learned jack shit from what happened to you, what you did to yourself. And I get mental health struggles are serious. I'm never going to like not say that mental health isn't a real thing. My background is in psychology. So if there's anyone who is kind to that, it is me. But with that being said, there is a dichotomy in that we cannot just sit here and play victim. You need to take control of your life. I'm sorry you and your wife are having marital issues, but I can see from her standpoint where that might be coming from. What do you think, Dominic?
Breaks my heart, man. Breaks my heart. He's in a tough bind. You know, even if his career was great and his relationship is still what it is, you're still in a really tough spot, right? But both of them are on fire right now. I'm worried. I think he needs a mentality change, like we talked about, and he needs to be the hero of his own story. Yep. Stepping up, being the man, and just taking accountability, taking extreme ownership.
And I think that's what it comes down to. And like I try not to be the asshole when it comes to this finance stuff, but unfortunately, week after week after week, we're getting this exact letter every single time. Someone saying like, "Oh, look at all what happened! Like Chris, Dominic saved me from this," and every week it's going to be the same exact thing. Like, I can't save you. I cannot be your hero. I can tell you what to do. I can try to be your guide, but ultimately you need to figure this out for yourself because you're the one that put yourself into this situation. And would it be compassionate for me to say, "Oh, poor you. That's so sorry that happened. You know, you shouldn't have to deal with it at all." And maybe that's true. Maybe you shouldn't have to deal with it, but unfortunately you do have to deal with it. I think the most compassionate thing, the most loving thing I can do is be that asshole that's telling you that you need to figure it out, rather than looking for the philanthropic Mr. Beast to come and save you. Because might he come and save you? Yeah, maybe, but he only saves like, I don't know, one person a video and he's posting like 52 videos a week. You think you're going to be that one person out of everyone in America? And I bet everyone in America there are so many people in America that have way sadder stories than you do right here. I feel bad for you from the mental health stuff. I feel bad for you for the marriage stuff. I don't feel bad for you for spending a bunch of money to deal with the stress. You knew what that was going to do. You did it anyways.
Yep.
If you had like a mental health issue, like you were bipolar and you went manic and then you like spent yourself into a tither, I feel for that. Like that's a mental health issue. But like just because you're sad or stressed, I'm not going to give you a pass there. When it comes to bankruptcy, I would go back to episode 32 and 32 Five Friday Feedback to listen to everything about bankruptcy. Before you declare bankruptcy, I say that that's your last case option. Before you get there, you need to go and find a better job and you need to start working that job and you need to create a debt repayment plan to pay that money off as quickly as you can. And if that's the case, we're living off rice and beans. We're not going out partying. We're not going to fancy dinners. Outside of just being able to pay for your rent or your mortgage, eating enough food to sustain yourself and getting yourself to work, all that extra money is going towards that debt. And even with that, it still might not be enough because $40,000 in credit card debt is going to be pretty difficult to get out of. I don't know what your job prospects are, but it sounds like you have at least an associate's degree if you went to a community college. Job market is not amazing right now, despite what economic forecasts are showing. But there are still jobs available to you. And that means you might have to work really freaking hard. You might have to work 3 part-time jobs, 4 part-time jobs to make this work. You might be working 16-hour days and then the rest of your days is going home and sleeping. But if that's the case, the good news is you're not going to be spending a bunch of money because you're going to be working all the time. So all that money can go towards the debt. But you put yourself in the situation, you need to get yourself out of it. Could bankruptcy be the option? Yes, it very well could be. But my biggest concern for you is you declare bankruptcy. Sounds like you don't have very many assets. You get rid of all of it. In 10 years, your credit score goes back to normal, and you put yourself back to the same thing. One of the worst things about credit card debt or about declaring bankruptcy is the moment your bankruptcy clears, every single credit card company is going to start sending you pre-approval offers because they know that you're the kind of person that's going to get yourself back into it. And they're trying to tempt you to do it again. And based off what I'm reading here, based off what Dominic read there, I fear that you'd be that person to put yourself back into that. And then lament the fact that they forced you to do it. When all they did was they just showed the door was cracked. But you're the one that walked right through it. Over and over and over. Is that too harsh, Dominic? Or was
Damn, bro. Damn. Chill out, Chris. No, I was kidding. It was tough love. You know, tough love. Coddling isn't going to save him. Nobody can save him. Only he can save him. Right? I think it was not easy to hear, but necessary to hear. And we hope here at the Fi Guys that you follow through, you get that better paying job, you fix your relationship with your wife, you know, you get out of debt, you increase that credit score, you find financial freedom. We love that for you. We're excited for that for you, but it's going to take a lot of work. And that's okay. That's all right. I think
that's part of the journey. And then once you get past it, you're going to be able to look back and be like, look where I came from.
Yeah.
Look what I did. Human beings are meant to walk uphill. We are meant to struggle. We are meant to keep on doing that. If we had every single day we sit on the beach and drink pina coladas, you'd be depressed in like 2 weeks. Yeah. And then you'd be dead. It's, you know, we're meant to struggle. And typically I like to be more kind and compassionate to people, but there's so many parts in this person's letter where they're just saying like, oh, woe is me. It's my wife's fault. It's this fault. I did this. You know, hopefully someone comes and saves me. I know it was a joke at the end, but like when I read that, it's not a joke. You put that in there for a reason.
Yeah.
You ended your letter with saying, I hope someone comes and saves me for a reason. It's because you're hoping that someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, peace is worth the hard work. It really is. Especially like this guy has gone through a lot. I can only imagine how great peace will feel when he finally does accomplish that, what he's looking for. So
you can only experience the highest highs if you've experienced the lowest lows. You have to have that gauge against it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, big hugs from Arizona. I'm sorry that I had to be a little bit more rough with you, but hopefully you take what I said. Yes, I am an asshole. I agree with you, but take what I said, actually like internalize it and go out and make tomorrow a better day than today is. You need to find a better job. We need to start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
After you find that better job, please just stick with what we've talked about on every single podcast.
Best of luck.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.